So is the only problem with Rings of Power a race problem? Is that the problem?
I stand against hate.
The main problem that you guys encountered and most of the backlash that you encountered was really not because of race. So
forgive me.
So it really is pretty disingenuous.
Ever wondered what else is out there?
That this actual article is solely like about race. The majority of the backlash that they were facing was because of timeline compression, was because of poor dialogue, was because, for example, the Galadriel show looked like Wonder Woman.
Alrighty then.
There were many different factors that would make people push back. The vast majority of the pushback was not because of ethnicity or race.
Alrighty then.
That's just not really true. What's up with the short elves? That's one of my things. What's up with the short elves? In fact, most of the comments were just about this sucks.
This sucks.
And that came from people of all descriptions. I did expect the writing to be, quite honest, 5 times better. And I keep on talking about the writing because that's one of my main pet peeves. Some people really found that the pacing was mad slow. Did I think that everything that happened or that they did in the season sucked? Personally, I didn't think that everything they did sucked. So for example, I've said it in many of my videos, like, I really loved the cinematography for the most part. Pretty much like 75-80% of the cinematography I really messed with. I personally really enjoyed the part of the story that involved the Harfoots, but that's me. My main problem is there's no delineation. So the whole idea that we're activists first and then actors second, it just doesn't make logical sense. And it makes me wonder, when I hear these people talk, or rather read what they're saying, I just wonder if they've read anything by Tolkien, because it just kind of feels like they didn't.
We had an instant connection. We are both activists off screen.
To be quite honest, I don't really like the way that their bosses are using them to kind of like run cover for the show. That really sort of bothers me. Actually is a little bit condescending, and maybe that's even a little bit racist in of itself.
Namely, the race problem, integration, civil rights issue, are all nothing but tools used by the whites who call themselves liberals against another group of whites who call themselves conservatives.
So Cruz states that the fact that attention was shifted towards that shows you what the power of shows like this is.
Converting into 2 hours, my mind could not process the fact that I spent 3 years to make 2-3 hours. That's right. But it's just the scope of it was also blinding. So you really, I think people will have to see every episode multiple times to really get the richness that this show provides.
The fact that it hit that nerve and that our being in it created such a response just brings attention to the greatness of fantasy, the greatness of the Lord of the Rings, and why it's actually good that we are here. Did it become a bit too much? Absolutely. It's taken airtime from the depth of who we are as artists, but it just shows you where we are in the world and how much work we still have to do. I'm just very grateful that it's us who are able to recalibrate, break form, reshape, and make history. I don't really know that this was a great way to make history.
Alrighty then.
And it sounds to me more like quote-unquote activism than it does that you're actually talking about a breakthrough role. I really would have expected more about maybe hints about season 2, talking about quote-unquote trolls. If you did encounter like racist trolls, why would that take up all of your conversation?
Taking, I literally didn't breathe.
Reshaping history, I don't really know, in the context of something that's fantasy, why would you want to reshape history?
I take responsibility.
And I'm not saying that to be funny. I don't get it. Adelaide Robinson at one point, she kind of like invokes the civil rights movement. And to be quite honest, this is yet another place in the discussion where it's just kind of like a cover-up for the problems that actually do present themselves with the show. So the civil rights movement, of course, this benefited quote-unquote people of color, but the context on invoking that in terms of encountering issues with criticism about your show, I don't know that it's the right place.
It was like I was trying.
Because it almost seems like what happened, that the fact that you guys were in the show was tied to the civil rights movement. Now we're in 2022. There are all kinds of roles, and there consistently are black people and brown people that are put into major different roles. So invoking that solely in the context of experiencing quote unquote backlash in terms of the show doesn't seem appropriate. Like thinking about civil rights leaders in the context, or even just bringing them up, not totally appropriate.
I was trying, but...
Am I talking about specifically? I'm talking about specifically, she says, it's been really important and empowering. Tears have been shed, blood has been spilled, metaphorically, but we are here.
Our churches early in the morning and bomb them, if you please, and we will still.
And then metaphorically, but she says metaphorically, but I know in the context of what she's saying this as if she's an activist and they're fighting the good fight against repression. And the major repression that you're encountering is because of the script, dialogue, timeline issues.
I was trying, but every
So there is a part here though where Nomvete says something that I agree is 100%. I agree with her 100. So she says that there's nobody else that could have played the role. Now, to be honest, the way they designed the actual show, I don't believe like that they designed the show and then they had some black people go for the roles and then they won the roles. No, they designed the show this way. So that to me was completely transparent in that area. I apologize, earlier I said Adlai and it's Adai. So Adai Robinson, my bad. So one quote that I wanted to read by her is, I've been pretty adamant, just on a personal level, that I was never going to let the controversy define the role or define the experience. So what controversy are you talking about specifically? Are you talking about the context of people decrying your being black? Or are you talking about the fact that people have issues with many of the things that they did with the timeline, that they have problems with the script, that they have problems with the dialogue, that they have problems with the Numenorians, that they have problems with the characterization of the Southlands, that they have problems with Mordor, that they have problems with Sauron? What part are you talking about specifically? Going on, Adai Robinson says, there is a certain amount of tuning out that you have to do when people are attempting to get to you. So what people are these that you're speaking about? Are you talking about fans in general, or are you talking about specifically ists that were making comments that are, you know, highly inappropriate? What were you talking about? Because the vagueness just seems more like you're running cover for your bosses. I have no personal beef with any of these people. I'm just doing a critical analysis of what they say.
I was trying.
So I had to try as best as I could to take control of this experience for myself. Okay, fair enough. I don't know what you mean, but fair enough. It's bigger than me. It's bigger than us. You mean the show, or are you talking about race? What are you talking about? You can have your personal reasons for being a part of something. Part of something. She's very, very vague. Not sure what she means. Then it sort of extends beyond the scope of the show, beyond the Tolkien universe. Not sure. People will take from it what they take. What are we supposed to take? But at this point, we feel quite free and happy to just talk about the story and the characters. This part, I agree with the young lady 100%. But my problem is, why didn't you guys spend most of the interview talking about the story and the characters? That's what I wanted to hear about. The story and the characters.
People are familiar with the third age in Tolkien's work, so that's what people are familiar with in the movies. And this is the second age.
Talking about haters, and I'm sure you do actually have haters, but talking about haters for this length of time, how empowering is that? Because to be quite honest, it's not really that empowering. So there's been a little bit of apology, a little bit of silence, but there's been an undeniable shift, said Nom Vete.
My poor little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their
If you
character.
like what you heard, subscribe and go ahead and check another video. There's one in the corner right there.